So this is a story about how we met poorly. Okay, this is the really we met poorly story. So a long time ago, not really a long time ago, but like a short long time ago, there was this chick that I met online, this lady that I met online, and she yelled at me. And then the next time we went online, she's like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize you live close to me," so we decided to meet. And this chick and this lady I met, this one over here, it was pretty crazy because she bought me a burrito and then didn't talk to her again for a couple of days, and then she came over. And then she had a drink, and I had a drink, and then she never left. And I really don't know how I feel about it. But sometimes, just sometimes, you end up marrying a stranger on the internet.
Okay. So I'm gonna talk about how our humors look like completely different and how that causes issues sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked you to start by telling our story poorly, because I want to talk about our humor and how, like, when I'm being funny, it hurts your feelings, but when you're being funny, it also hurts my feelings, and how we've had to mitigate that.
Yeah.
So I guess, what is the, like, humorous thing that I've done recently that's hurt your feelings?
She finds it funny to, like, playfully bite and poke and do these things, which I do too. I find those things fun once in a while, but sometimes I'm really not in the right headspace to be playing like that. And then she just takes it too far and doesn't listen when I say no. And then when I do it back to her, she gets mad that I did it back to her, and then is like, "How dare you do the same thing that I did?" And then I like, well, what the hell, double standard? And I get mad about it because it's like not fair that you get to be a prickly little honey badger and playful and bite me, but when I do it back to you, I'm an asshole. Quote unquote.
And this is where the miscommunication comes into play, because I don't think you understand that I actually like when you're pissing me off. And so you take it as a full stop, and I'm like, fuck you, because then I'm mad that you stopped.
Yeah.
And you don't understand that I like that. And like, yeah, sometimes I go too far, but then I'm mad because you just straight up stopped playing with me. We are recording. We are recording, sir.
See.
We're recording. But no, like, I think that that's a really big thing with our humor, is it's definitely very different in how we express humor is different.
Oh, agreed, 100%.
Also, you yell a lot. Like, a lot. And you don't realize you're doing it. And I try to be, like, very gentle with, like, hey, actually, that's not very nice. And then I think you think you're joking when you're like, they must learn! And I'm like, actually, you're just kind of being an ass. And I try to, like, make jokes about it, but I don't think you get that I'm being serious until I'm, like, actually mad. And it takes a while for me to get there. But I'm trying to be nice about things. But you don't take it when it's, like, nice or jokey. And I think that's a problem for us with communication.
She's my prickly little honey badger who sometimes spits acid and has swords.
I don't have swords. I have axes.
Same difference. Sharp and pointies. Learning each other's communication has been interesting. I would not, even though sometimes there's like moments of like grit against each other, I would not in a million years change any of it for anything, because through it, the lessons that we're learning together, the things we're learning about ourselves that we didn't realize, and the way we're able to communicate when we finally realize, oh, okay, I see her point. Okay, yeah, something or vice versa. Those things have pushed both of us to grow exponentially, and it's awesome.
Like, I expressed that I was feeling a lot of anxiety, and you were trying to joke with me, and I finally just, well, you weren't really trying to joke. You were asking, like, hey, what about this, what about this, what about this? And you weren't realizing, like, mentally I was done. And it took me like full blown having an autistic meltdown for you to be like, oh shit, I pushed too far.
Yeah.
And I think that's like your ADHD, and you do that with jokes too. And then I'm the same way. Like, I'm good until I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I really am. I'm like smooth, and then it's like, oh shit, that was too far, and I crash. And I think that's definitely something that like happens within our humor as well. Like, I'll push too far and crash, or you'll push too far and crash, or you'll push too far, I'll crash, or I'll push too far and then you crash the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm ready to crash out.
Same.
Yeah.
Sorry. It happens. She has ADHD, and I have ADHD and brain damage and possible ADI on top of that. So we have some similarities on certain things and a lot of big differences on a lot of our personality quirks, but it's alright. It's what makes life interesting. I'm not wanting it to stop.
No, I wouldn't say I want it to stop. I just think definitely there's a difference in how we were raised, what time frame in which we were raised. Like, that's a big one that a lot of people don't talk about in, like, I know a lot of people talk about, like, oh, an age gap is 3 years. 11. We've got 11. And I've talked to people who have larger age gaps than me. I know someone with 25 years in between them.
Yeah.
And, like, that's a lifetime of difference. Like, that is a lifetime difference. And that's something I've noticed with us is, like, we're very much different as far as the generation that we come from.
Definitely.
And also, like, how dare you? How dare you speak to your mom that way?
Your generation sucks. I'm sorry.
And your generation's mean. I'm sorry. Like,
it's true.
Like, you know, but at the end of the day, we were raised with different, not different morals or different standards, but we were raised with a different acceptance of normal. And so, like, for me, I'm like, actually, I don't like that. Like, please stop. And you're like, oh, you don't like it, huh?
Yeah. You know what I was told when I didn't like it? Shut up and deal with it, because here it comes again more. Bah, 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 bah.
Right, but that's also abusive. And that's something that we've learned through time is actually psychologically damaging to children. Mm-hmm. Is when their voices aren't heard and aren't respected. Yeah. Then they don't learn who they are. Yeah. And that's like a big one for me, is like, I want my kids to be heard and know that they are known for who they are, not who I want them to be.
Definitely, that's something we have in common with our kids. We want our kids to be very much so seen as who they are, respected, feel like they're respected, feel like they have a safe place to communicate with us about what their needs are, what they want. Obviously, we're not, the idea that
it's not a yes man game.
No.
Like, that's not what it is. But it is understanding who they are. Yeah. Like, the oldest, he's definitely artistically leaning. He wants to do all those things. Yeah. And, like, the minute we were like, oh, you want your art to be your work? Let's look at tattoo guns. Let's look at getting you the things that you want to do. Let's get you the fake skins. Let's get your art something that'll make money. Was the minute he said, I want to live here. Yep. Because we saw him. Yeah. Right? And the youngest, like, we were talking to him, hey, what do you think you're lacking? I need more structure. I need more this. I need to be told what to do to be successful. What do you think about the military? Why don't you think about that? There's all these things that'll help you learn what it would be like if that's the type of life that you want, if that's the type of lifestyle that you want. Let's start working towards that now. You're close in age to when you can start these things. Let's figure that out. Is that what you want, or is it not what you want? And that's okay. You've got to explore to know. And then there's the younger two, and like,
oh man, they're two peas in a pod that go at each other so much. Okay, we have a 7-year-old.
They're like son. Me and you, and honestly, it freaks me out.
We have a 7-year-old son and a almost 6-year-old daughter. Isla is my daughter, and she's mine, and my ex-fiance's, and Gabe is her son, and her ex-husband's, and they're very much so our kids. Like, just because he's my stepson, he's not my stepson. No, he's my kid.
He calls you dad like daily.
I know.
It's insane.
And Isla has occasionally called you mom as well, mommy. We don't push
I don't
it.
make a big deal about
Yeah.
it because I also know like how detrimental it is.
Speaking of, I'm gonna check on her real quick.
Dude, I see her. She's in the chair.
Okay.
The chair's moving. But yeah, that's like, I don't make a big deal out of it because I know for her it's really confusing and it's a hard time for her because on one side they're talking badly about me specifically, and then on this side she sees who I am, and so she has an internal conflict of what she's being told versus what she's seeing, and I'm not going to sway her opinion. I want her to make that opinion all on her own, in her own head, in her own heart, and I'm not going to sway it. I'm just going to continue to be myself, and she can believe that I am what they say or what she sees. At the end of the day, she is smart, she is strong, she's intelligent, she can figure that out on her own, and I'm not here to tell her that the person who is supposed to love her the most is lying to her. That's not what I will ever do.
Exactly. It's trying to...
That's a big one for
First
me.
off.
I will never undermine... I will never undermine her biological family because, and I said this to you today when I was stressed out, as much as I'm angry, as much as I'm sad, as much as my child's father bothers me to my soul, right? He's the other half of my child. And I could never be more mad at him than I love my child. I could never be more upset or frustrated or angry or scared of him than I love my child, like ever. There's not those two. I can't hold that above my love for my son because that is half of him. And I view that the same way with her mom. I could never be more frustrated, more hurt, more angry, more disappointed in her mom than I love her daughter. Could never do that. Could never be me.
It's one of those things with the animosity I have towards her bio mom, my ex. It's a fine balance of showing the right amount of concern and the right amount of frustration with things to let Isla know that there's something wrong with what's going on without making her feel like there's something severely wrong, without making her feel like her mom's a bad person. Because I really do. I want her mom to be in her life, but with the things that are going on, which we don't have to get into in here.
No.
But with the things that are going on, it's like, okay, I need to do something to encourage my daughter to stand on her own 2 feet in this situation. Encourage my daughter to understand that the things that she is experiencing are real.
You're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, no matter what I do, you're not going to be able to. And that's psychology 101. The hardest bond to get in between.
I'm not trying to.
I know you're not. But the hardest bond to get in between is a biological mother and their daughter. Not even their daughter. Their biological offspring. And here's why. Psychologically and physiologically in the womb, there's actually a transmission of chemicals within the womb that alters both brains permanently. And so even if, this is not Isla's mom, so like that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is even in a parent-child relationship where the parent is harming the child to the point of near unalive, that child is still going to feel that connection, that closeness, that love for that parent. So there's not going to be any encouraging her to stand on her own 2 feet in that situation. And that's not to be an ass. It's just because there isn't. She's going to see it in her own time. She's going to stand on her own 2 feet in her own time. But it's going to be going against everything that is ingrained in human nature for survival.
Yeah.
So essentially, by standing up, she would be undoing years of evolution and centuries of evolution. Because we've evolved to survive this way. And that it sucks.
This is where I disagree with you, because a child can be taught to have boundaries and learn about boundaries and what's okay and what's not okay, what's safe and what's not safe, and be told.
I'm not arguing that.
And be taught how to identify when something is not okay.
That is the only way. That is the only way to undo that type of evolution. Absolutely.
Okay, thanks for cutting me off.
Didn't mean to cut you off. I'm agreeing. Okay. Continue.
Sometimes I have to remind you, you get a little overzealous with communication, and sometimes you talk over me and not let me speak. Yeah, see. Communication problems. With teaching a child about boundaries, teaching them what's safe, what's not safe, teaching them what's okay and not okay, what's safe touch, what's not safe touch, what's appropriate communication and not appropriate communication. These things hurt. If it hurts and these things like physically hurt you or emotionally hurt you, it's never okay to stay silent about those. It's always appropriate to go to a safe adult or a safe grandparent or a safe sibling and express what is happening so that people know who can keep you safe, what is happening to you. So what I mean by teaching her how to stand on her own is those exact things.
Right, and that's just basics of consent and why I so highly advocate for comprehensive sexual education from kindergarten all the way through, because that is kindergarten level of that. Consent, good touch, bad touch, safety. If it hurts, safe adults. And the big thing that I find in that is a lot of people are like, well, the teacher's going to say they're a safe adult. Then they're not teaching it right. Because that isn't what a safe adult is.
Right.
I can tell you right now who my child's safe adults are, and I fall as number 3. On his safe adults, I fall as number 3. And I can tell you who the top 2 are, and they're not me, and they're not his dad. His dad falls at number 5. I fall at number 3. My mom falls at number 2. His grandma on his dad's side falls at number 1. Why? Because they're the people that are consistently there. He has never seen his grandma fight with me. He has never seen my mom fight with his dad. So because of him not seeing the conflict there, they're the people where if he's scared of his dad, he goes to my mom. Yeah. If he's scared of me, he goes to his dad's mom. And he knows, like, I can tell Nana what's going on. I can tell Grammy what's going on. And everybody's going to come to a conclusion together because I told my safe people, right? I can tell you who falls before his dad, my sister.
Move it off screen for just a second.
Yeah, you're good. You know, the person who falls before his dad is my sister. And that's based on him deciding who is safe, based on how they've reacted to him, telling them things and being believed. It's that simple. But it's not telling a child, you are, I'm your safe adult, you have to come to me. No, it's asking what makes a safe adult and teaching what makes a safe adult, and then asking the child, who is your safe adult? If everything was going bad, who do you want to be there?
Right.
I would venture a guess that Grandma Jessie's one of them for her.
Yeah, Grandma Jessie is.
I would venture, if I were to guess at her safe adults without asking her, I would say that she would count her older brother in that. Because the person she came out to about everything happening was her brother. And as much as her and her brother fight, the older two, it's probably them two, your mom, than you. Mm-hmm. More because she knows you're going to get angry and go into defense, and she's seen that happen.
That's her safe older person. Her safe adult is me, my mom, and you.
No, the person she's going to tell it to and who she sees as the safe adult is her brother. Her brother, your mom, her other brother, then you. Because that's the order in which she told them.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, that would be my guess. And that's not asking her, right? She may have a whole different list of people. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's my guess based on who she told she was being harmed to.
Yeah.
That said, she does tell me more than she tells you.
Sometimes.
That goes back and forth. But yeah, when it's just me and her, she'll curl up with me and just tell me everything. Everything about her week. But she also knows, like you've seen when she was sitting in the booth and she crawled up on me and almost fell asleep in the booth.
Yep.
Because I just held her and I said, you want to tell me about your week, all the good things? Do you want to tell me all the good things you did? And when she was telling me all the fun things she did, I didn't make a face. I didn't react in any way besides going, oh my God, that sounds so fun. Did you love it? Right? And that's how I am with her to create the safety.
See,
and that is truly how I feel too, so it's
this
easier.
This is
for
also
you,
where
you see the manipulation in it, and I do too, but to her, in her brain, her little 5-year-old brain, she did so much fun stuff with Mommy and Amy.
This is where, like, generationally, the difference in my generation, her generation, like we were talking about, I didn't have a safe person, period. I had to be my own damn safe person.
I didn't either.
So
I became the adult I needed. I did not have a safe.
Oh, I didn't become the adult I needed. I became the outlandish, ridiculous, shove everyone away, do what I want, when I want, adult that should not have been that way. That's what I became. But
just different choices on how to handle trauma.
Yeah, different choices on how to handle trauma, but generationally, like, they didn't have these types of concepts as much with, like, the knowledge of child psyche and stuff like that when I was growing up, and the generations before that, they didn't have that even more, and it's just been progressively, as time's gone on, generations have gotten a little more wise to things and a little better understanding these things.
There's been longer studies, is what it is.
More studies and stuff.
And better equipment to see what it's doing in our brains, too, right? Like, we can say, we know hitting a child doesn't work, but we're still going to spank our child because it gets an immediate result. And eventually, that's what you think because you're seeing the immediate result, right? But here's the thing. You might get the immediate result, but is that result going to be the same if you're not standing there? And that's what those studies have shown, is that children who are spanked, when they go into a room where that disciplinarian is not there, they don't know how to behave because their behavior is fueled by fear.
Right.
Versus a child that is spoken to, understood, consequented logically, I guess. You use logical consequence, so the consequence that you get relates to the thing that you've done. Yeah. They know why not to do it. Like, for instance, you talk to my son, you're like, you're doing this on purpose. I've told you I don't like it. You know you don't like when your things are touched, and you're continuing to do it.
Yeah.
Cool, so now I'm going to take your things, right? Now I'm taking your things, and you see how this works. Because this is in the real world. You walk up and you take somebody's stuff, you're going to get knocked out. I'm not going to knock you out. I'm just going to take your stuff.
Yep.
What are you going to do about it now? Because the video shows you taking my stuff.
Can you grab the charger and plug that in?
Yeah.
Momentarily.
Kind of.
Okay, I'll do it.
It's okay, I got it. Well, actually, I'm trapped, so you're going to have to.
Well, it's like my generation. So here's what happened to my generation, right? Born 1985.
My generation.
Which,
I'm from 1985. I'm an old man.
When I was growing up.
Continuing.
Thanks. Good humor. Not funny, by the way. Sometimes funny, but right now not funny. My generation growing up was the first time in generational history that they do these things where they go, oh, we're gonna dub this generation this, and then the next generation after that's gonna be dubbed that. So I grew up from basically, as soon as I started to understand things, being told that I'm Generation X, the last generation of Generation X.
I'm the very last of the millennials. I'm a 96.
Right. To halfway through freshman year of high school being told, oh no, you're not Gen X anymore, you're millennial. And then nowadays,
you're Gen X.
They consider it X-tennial or whatever the hell it is, which is like a mix between Gen X and millennial. And that alone, not really being told your entire life that you're one generation and then
I'm a Zennial.
Yeah.
I'm a Gen Z millennial.
Yeah. And then halfway through, now you're part of this group, and then a little while later, now you're part of both groups. Not really having a generation that you belong to and being the brunt of both generations' problems. Gen X fucking blames me constantly because I'm supposedly a millennial. Millennials blame me because I'm supposedly Gen X. And then generations above them and below are just constantly looking at me like, what the fuck? And I'm stuck in the middle because of the generation that I'm actually from, which is that right there window. And it caused a lot of, well, I've got the Gen X attitude of fuck around and find out with the millennial, oh, I can bitch and moan about this. Cool, I'm going to bitch and moan about this, but also I'm going to tell you to fuck around and find out. So it causes some personality quirks and some ideas.
He forgets that Gen Z is known for kicking down doors just because it's fucking fun. I'm a 96, so I'm in between the millennials and the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could bitch and moan about it, but we're also the ones out there that are doing rallies and putting those rallies together. On the flip side, I'm also Gen Z. Like, I'm right in between. And so with that Gen Z attitude, I'm gonna be the same one, like, oh, you wanted to throw that brick, motherfucker? I seen you put them bricks out, Mr. Popo. You should take them back home. Like, I'm both as well, and I'm in the middle as well. And I think that is why we get along as well as we do, is because we're both blamed by both sides.
Yep.
Millennials are like, you're a fucking Gen Z. Gen Zs are like, you're a millennial, you're so old. And I'm over here like, okay, I'm just a Maddie. Like,
Right.
you. I can bitch and moan about it, or I can just say I am who I am, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to raising kids from the perspective of never truly fitting in, I think we both did make a decision to have our children
Feel
know
recognized.
that they are who they are,
Yeah.
regardless of what labels are put on them later in life.
Yeah, I don't want my kids to have to feel like they have to conform to any trend or group of people that they're hanging out with because they're feeling pressured. I want them to be like, that's stupid, I'm not doing that because I don't like it. I want them to have
Every
that
single one of our kids does that.
awareness of who they are. They do.
Every single one of our kids does that. I
because
asked
of the
Gabe
way
to help
we've-
me build a freaking deck, and he looked at me and said, no. Isla crawled up there and helped me. Austin helped me.
Yeah.
Matthew helped me. Who didn't? Isla. Because why? That's stupid. I don't want to. All right, bet. She ain't going to be a builder. Ain't going to be no Bobette the builder because she don't want to. And it wasn't necessary. It wasn't like a, I need help. It was a, do you want to help? And she said, no, it's stupid. I don't want to drill no screws in. I said, I'm doing it. She goes, cool for you. No thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Bet.
what it is instilling in our children is that their voices is just as important as our voices.
It is.
Their wants and desires and dreams and likes and dislikes are, as far as things that are safe for them, are more important than our desire for the things we want them to do. Like, I was an athlete through grade school and high school. I was also an artist, just like my son, but I was an athlete.
You don't want to do no athletics?
Yeah, I was a competitive Roman Greco Junior Olympic USA team
Which
wrestler.
Gabe wants to get into, by the way. He wants to, not wrestling, but he wants to get into martial arts.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
I was,
Brian Cannon.
and I was also in boxing and football, did lots of different sports. And my oldest kid, he honestly doesn't have
theater and art.
Doesn't have an athletic bone in his body, and that's okay. I'm not gonna model. I'm not gonna try to model my son after what I did.
Your son, okay. Your oldest is one of my favorite people. He is so funny. But no, he does theater and he does art, and he's really good at both.
Yeah.
He's so good at both. Oh my god. And the youngest definitely wants to be in sports. You know, that's where the middle wants to be in sports. He wants to be in team sports though.
Yeah.
And like the younger two, not so much. They want to be in martial arts solo sports.
Yeah.
I'm down with it. I'm 100% down with it. I was raised in a family where we play soccer and we swim. That's what we do. Those are our sports. And it wasn't until I was in high school and I started running cross country, which is a solo fucking sport, and doing martial arts, which is also a solo sport, that I found something that I loved doing, right? And so I want to give my kids the ability to do what makes them happy. And not playing team sports isn't a detriment.
No.
It's not. Not everybody is meant to be a team captain. Not everybody's meant to be a team player. If everybody was meant to be a team player, we would not have the software developers that we have.
Right.
We would not have people who are tycoons of fucking business. Like, as much as they're shitty people in some cases, they're very successful at what they do.
Yep.
And we need those type of people in this world. And that's not to say that, like, oh, all nurses. No, like, there's a lot of narcissistic people that we need. The reason narcissistic personality disorder exists is because people have to look out for their best interests. That is how evolution happens, is when people are looking out for people. Does that mean that abusive people are good people? No, but the world needs it. Sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, we all exist for a reason. Empaths, dark empaths, we all exist for a reason, and we all play a part in evolution. People who look at themselves in their own personal gain as paramount are the very same people that are happy by themselves developing the new technology for the world.
Yeah.
Similarly, the people who want to be in sports, that want to be a part of a team, tend to buckle down and have more solid family relationships, which we also need for the betterment of the world.
Agreed.
If I were to guess, I would say we have 4 kids. One of them is going to be fruity. And I think I know which one it is.
So I'm going to say something.
It's not the oldest.
I'm going to say something.
It's not the oldest.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound bizarre, but it's going to make sense in a minute. I honestly believe if it wasn't for people in this world like Tiny Mustache Man, Mr. Schindler, Stalin, and people like that, the Grecius Gavin, the Roman emperor who was a tyrant, and so on and so on, if it was not for there being people, Genghis Khan, such and such, if there were not for these dictators,
I don't know where you're going with this,
and these people to be in history, to do the things that they did, society would not have had the push to learn to do better and not do those things, to accept that those types of things are not appropriate behaviors, those types of things are not okay to do to people. Because before those people came around, the world had no idea about those types of concepts and would have had no understanding that those things were vile and evil. That's called...
They say that if you forget history, it repeats. But the truth is, history is going to repeat either way. Bad people are going to exist. The honest truth about humanity, everybody needs an enemy. For unity to happen, there has to be a common enemy. And while it's short-lived, the reason it's short-lived is because we are all uniting over a common enemy. And we talk about that in psychology. You can hate somebody and go befriend somebody else that hates that person. At the end of the day, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have a friendship that falls apart because it was based solely on hating somebody.
Yep.
But we see that happen in our culture. We see that happen in our friendships. We see that happen in the workplace. We see that happen in so many fronts. I can see what you're saying because on a mass scale, that's what happened, is it created unity, it created growth, it created learning. But let's be wrong. We already learned those lessons. We learned those lessons with Alexander the Great, who also committed atrocities. We learned those lessons with the pharaohs. We learned those lessons over and over and over again throughout history. We didn't need those people to exist. The world just needs a common enemy to unite, and that's why it doesn't last.
I think the world needs to remember those things. The moment, what happens...
I agree. Memory is good. We don't need another one. Trump!
What happens is society has these things that push us to do better
about that, by the way.
and unify over things, and then society goes, oh my god, it's taboo to even talk about, and it creates a sensitivity for people that they don't like the discomfort, and then people start dictating laws and regulations about protecting someone's discomfort. Honestly, I'd rather be uncomfortable with knowing the cold hard fucking truth about a situation and a type of mentality and type of people that were there than let it go forgotten and not have the knowledge and the history there to educate my kids on why this makes you uncomfortable. It should make you uncomfortable. This is why it should make you uncomfortable, because this behavior is bullshit.
I actually agree with that. So there's a book that I was made to read in 4th grade, and a lot of 4th graders had it on their reading list. It is now a banned book in schools, and it is called Number the Stars. And for the past 25 years, it has been on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yep.
Number the Stars is something that I am reading with my 1st grader. I'm not waiting until 4th grade. When I tell you that the insights this child is taking because of how I've taught him about history up until this point, reading this book, he said, wait, Mommy, isn't Zonti a Jew? With the name of the person. And I said, yeah, that person is Jewish. And he said, but I heard people saying bad things. And I said, yeah. And he goes, could this happen again? I said, yeah.
Good.
And he goes, Mommy, if this happens, we have to go get Zonti and make sure she's safe. And I said, I know, baby.
Yep.
And then he asked if the Jews were the only people that were targeted.
Okay.
And I said no. And I started explaining who was targeted. And he started listing people from every single group that he knows. and saying, we're going to have a safety net, Mommy, because that puts my grandma and my Auntie Risa, that they'd be hurt, and my Auntie Noodle Legs would be hurt. Mommy, you would be hurt.
Yep.
Like, this is how, like, my first grader, is having these insights. And that's why history is important. We don't need history to repeat, but we need to remember why we stopped what we stopped.
Yep, exactly. Which is why I have a problem with, no offense, a lot of people from your generation demanding tearing down monuments and tearing down statues and tearing down halls.
Don't put that on me just because we're from the same generation. I agree with you here.
I'm putting it on the mob mentality of the statues of these, for instance, Custard, right? The statue of Custard makes these people uncomfortable. Was chattel slavery bad?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it was bad. Tearing down the statue of Custard and removing the actual history behind why that monument was there to begin with of Custard, now it's going to be generations and generations of people forgetting that this happened in American history. And guess what? If it's forgotten, it will repeat itself.
Let's be clear here. That's not just about bad people.
Yes.
Because when we're talking about the Trail of Tears, when we're talking about forced migration, because that's what they're calling it now, migration of natives, that's not what it was.
No.
This was at Pew Pew Point. This is
genocide.
This is literally the government coming in, making a treaty, breaking the treaty, holding a group of people that are sovereign to this land hostage and forcing them to move from one place to another and pew-pewing those who are moving too slow.
Yep.
And because of that, we were taught about the Trail of Tears. We were taught about people who were forced to move, people who were ripped from their homelands, people whose children passed away, people who went into childbirth on this trek, and them and their newborns were ended at that moment, right? We were taught about that. And at the same time, what we weren't taught about, what we weren't taught about was exactly what treaties were broken. And your generation was taught that.
Yep.
My generation was not. Currently, the photos that we saw in our textbooks, you know how they were in color? They're in black and whites in the kids, making it seem longer ago.
Yeah.
Also, they're calling it migration instead of the Trail of Tears. They're just calling it the Migration Trail.
Yeah.
They're whitewashing this history to the point where even things that were atrocities done to good, decent people that were just surviving on the land is also being washed down. That's why history is forgotten, and a lot of those monuments have also been removed.
Yep.
A lot of the burial grounds are no longer existent because it's been removed. So, like, when we're talking about these generations, we have to also understand that I wasn't taught the same thing you were taught.
Right. Exactly.
And you weren't taught the same thing your older sister was taught. And your older sister wasn't taught the same thing that your mom was taught. And there's, like, 2 generations between them. So it's like, when we're looking at it, it's happened all the way through. I mean, there's resegregation in Louisiana.
Yeah.
There's resegregation. Are they coming under fire for it?
Yes,
Yeah. Are they
yeah.
undoing it? No. And they're not, because they're saying we can do this now, and they are, and they're doing it to prove a point. But it's gonna erupt.
Yep.
And it's the division, it's the things that happen, and I think a lot of it starts as humor. A lot of it starts as humor.
Yeah. There's that's what people don't
And
understand
desensitization.
is there's certain things that are humorous. That humor is always going to be humor. Satire is always going to be satire. There's always going to be those elements of things that are meant to purposely make you uncomfortable, but also bring light to a serious situation. That is literally what satire is for. That is what humor is for. When we try to cancel everything because of our own discomfort, we are failing the generations coming beneath us, because we are actively erasing the history behind things. And that, like she was saying, taught different things in school. Believe it or not, when I was in grade school, I learned the entire Constitution, not just the Bill of Rights. I learned the entire Constitution. I had to study it. By the time I was in 5th grade, I had to write an entire 36-page essay on the Constitution. And I had to understand and know every word of it and quote the founding fathers, the people who came before the founding fathers, the treaties between Germany, the treaties between Francia and France, Canada and King George, that from the colonies before that happened. I had to understand the history of the original 3 colonies and then the original 13 colonies and then the Louisiana Purchase, all of the different things that happened up into just around the time of the Civil War.
I learned a lot of that. I didn't have to learn the full Constitution, but I learned a lot of that. But that's because I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
But I will put it this way. I went to a public high school in the state of Colorado, and that's where I graduated from. And I was in AP History. AP US History, mind you. Let me just say this. I will quote you my least favorite teacher in the fucking world.
Yeah.
Why would we need to learn this? It's not that important to the adult world anyway in regards to the fucking Constitution of the United States of America. So how are we going to learn American history in a state that is notoriously racist in a county that already had a bombing in a school that had already had an attempted bombing, and tell us that the Constitution isn't important? Well, of course you don't want us to learn about the Constitution because we're walking through metal detectors to get into the school. Because we have a police force for our security. Because our police chief is the baseball and football coach. Because we were already being oppressed and you didn't want us to know it? Alright, buddy. Well, we do know, but also just going to point out that when I used .gov sites that were from other countries, you also doxed my grade, and that was shit. Shit. Do better on your research, people.
That's her personal call out.
Do better on your research.
Anyways, this will be a little off topic for our stuff, but that was our
take on humor, parenting, and how humor and parenting are intertwined, and how generations play into that.
Yep. And this is so this one time I married a stranger off the internet.
Alright, I got you. Ready?
Yeah.
This one time, I went on the internet, and I went on a live stream, and I told the live stream I was bored. And then there was this guy on the live stream, and he told me that he was also bored, and we found out that we were 20 minutes away from each other. So I gave this stranger on the internet my number, and he told me where to go to get a burrito. And then he went to the wrong burrito place, so I bought him a burrito because he said he'd meet me at the burrito place that he originally sent me the address to. And then we spent like 2 hours talking, and then like the next week I went and I hung out at his house, and then I left. And then I came back, and when I came back, I just never left. And he doesn't know what to do about it, but he says he kind of likes it. But also, like, I don't know, maybe one day you'll marry a stranger off the internet.
See you guys next time.